Hello and welcome. This is the latest edition of the Fitness Reborn Podcast. My name is Sean from Renaissance Fitness Personal Training, where we put movements ahead of workouts. And my guest today is Coach Brad Carlson, coming to us from somewhat local, more local than most of the people that I speak to, versus like overseas or anything like that. But local in the sense that he's on my time zone, so he's on standardized time here. He's in Oklahoma. Brad, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Sean. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking time out of your day. And, I know you told me before we started broadcasting here that you regularly run in the morning, but didn't because of rainouts.
Yeah, and I don't even know if I should call it running. I call it slow, easy movement. Like you just used the word movement too versus exercise. I love that. I use the word movement also. So I do something called a slow, easy movement, which kind of looks like a run, but it's more like a waddle just to kind of keep my metabolism, primed up and burning and all that. But I live the minimalist lifestyle in a very nature-esque area. There's a lot of running and trails around me, but yeah, it rained all night. So my dog and I were got a little bit of cabin fever this morning. We got out a little bit, but not like normal.
I gotcha too. I need to get out more, do more runs too, because I have a race coming up in May. So yeah. So I need more cardio work. So I need to find that extra bit of motivation and drive to get up early and, get some more runs in. So, but that's a whole nother story in and of itself. But all right, so Brad, the way I like to kick things off here, so people that are listening have a kind of just a conceptual background about where we're coming from here, and so they, I know things about you, but probably no one else listening right now really does. So I'd like to kind of introduce you a bit more and just have you tell us what's your backstory here, what brought us to this point now that we're having this conversation.
Yeah, I'm your classic couch potato. It was 13 years ago. I always tell people my journey into the world of health and wellness started 13 years ago. I was lethargic, very low self-esteem, self-worth, no passion in life, no drive in life, no purpose, 50 pounds overweight. And it was November 2009. I was still married at the time. I was sitting on the bed in my bedroom, in our master bedroom, and I just had this huge belly. I call it my pot belly, my Santa Claus belly. And I just looked at myself and I just became disgusted with, who I'd become. And, how did I let, the question everybody asks is, how did you let yourself get this way? And, like anybody, I got caught up in the life-work balance. You just go to work and that was it. And you come home and you're exhausted and never gave much of a second thought to my health or my wellness or my overall well-being. I hadn't even heard of health and wellness 13 years ago. And anyway, yeah, sitting on the couch that one day, I was disgusted with myself, and that was 13 years ago. And here we are today. It's just been an amazing ride, amazing journey ever since. I never in a million years would have imagined I'd be podcasting or a guest on a podcast, even a year ago. It's just crazy how life is always evolving and changing. So
right, yeah. Don't you just love questions like that? It's like, oh, how did you get yourself like this? It's such a condescending sounding question. It's like, oh, how did I get to this point where I'm fat? You don't think I know that already?
Well, and one of the things, like you were mentioning, in the beginning there about finding more motivation to run in the morning. It didn't start out easy at all. Like, I was on the yo-yo cycle for the longest time. When I first tried to, do this, I remember I wrote a card. All I knew was I didn't know anything about nutrition. I didn't know anything about exercise. I didn't know anything about anything. And I had an exercise bike in my room, and I rode it every day for 3 weeks, and then I quit because that's as long as my motivation lasted. So over the years, I've learned a couple of things, and two of the things I've learned to share with your listeners is, one, my health is top priority. My 3 priorities in life are God, health, and family. And if health is not one of your, I always say, if health is not one of your top 3 priorities in your life, you need to look at the priorities in your life that is going on, because without your health, the saying is your health is your greatest wealth. Without your health, you're so limited in life. And I've been blessed to work in senior wellness for a number of years, and I've seen what happens when you're in your, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, and you don't take care of your health, it catches up to you. I really, really want to get that message out that if you don't take care of your health, it does catch up to you later in life with pills and wheelchairs and walkers and doctor's visits and neuropathy and arthritis that doesn't need to be there, obesity, the high blood pressure, the cholesterol medications, all that. It's just none of that needs to be your reality. Your loss of independence, that's another huge one. So I always really try to stress and encourage wherever you are in life, it's not too late, start now.
Right. Yeah, I'm totally with you there too, because I kind of woke up to that message or that lesson, thankfully, pretty early on. I got on this board in my adult life, on this board. It's been about 20 years now. I'm 39. So
wow.
it's been I was lucky enough that I got that message, or I started to learn that message pretty early on. I mean, I didn't go into it really with that in mind. I had other things going on with my personal life and my mental health, and I was looking for some sort of catharsis. And this kind of, I don't even know how it came about. I just kind of I got fed up. I got up. I went to a park. I went on like a 3-mile walk, just walking.
Yeah.
And I just got up and bolted, really. I didn't prepare for it. I didn't have any running shoes on or shorts or anything else. In fact, I was wearing blue jeans, and I just kept going.
Yeah.
I was drenched in sweat by the end, but that was really like the jumping off point for me in my life. But yeah, you're right, because now, as I've watched my own parents, they're getting on in years. My father's 70. My mother will be 70 here in about a week. And my mom is doing good. I mean, for the most part. She's fairly healthy. She's a fairly healthy person. My father is just a train wreck, and he knows it too. So I'm not saying anything he doesn't. I'm not saying anything he doesn't know. But and he wouldn't be listening to this anyway. But it really is, and it is a combination of not taking care of yourself when you're younger, and now that he's older, just not giving a crap.
That's a hard part. Not giving a crap. And it's unfortunate because what he may not realize is that his lack of health will catch up with him. And not only that, the burden of taking care of him will fall to you as the son or your mom or something like that. It will definitely fall to someone else. Yeah, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I know, it's neat that I still have this profession, this health and wellness and coaching profession. And I've talked with other health professionals, both on the podcast and, in all walks of life that, the message is getting out there about, this idea of being healthy, nutrition, all this, but as not just as a country in America, but as a planet, we're moving further and further away. We're more obese now than ever. Adult obesity, childhood obesity. And I said it a few minutes ago, I always try to stress health has got to be one of your top 3 priorities in your life. And if it's not, it's time to really sit down and reevaluate what your priorities in life are. And I want to emphasize too, for your listeners, I learned this lesson, a while ago, but people always say, I don't have enough time. And I say, that's not true. What you don't have are your priorities straight. And I always tell people, you don't manage your time, you manage your priorities. And if health is a priority for you, then somehow, some way, the time always automatically shows up. If the time is not there, it's because it's not a priority for you.
Right.
And I always like to emphasize this part too, because I'm working with a couple different clients. The health and wellness journey is supposed to be fun. But it's not. People think it's about losing weight or getting in shape. I got off for a male, even for men in our culture nowadays, Sean, it's about having the big chest and the 3% body fat and the chiseled 6-pack abs and all of that. And I got off of that. I left that bandwagon years ago. I'm like, that's not what being healthy and fit is all about, at least for me. I don't think that's sustainable. You talk to those people that do that for those magazine shoots, and they're, in front of the camera, they're fine, but away from camera, they're miserable because of, it's just very low, vegetables and protein just day in and day out. And that gets very old very quickly. But I like to try to tell people, and I'm running a series on my Instagram right now, training with Coach Brad about this, how to get ready for 2023. It's not about so much setting a goal or setting, New Year's resolutions. It's about developing a vision for your life. What do you want your life to look like in 2023? What version of you do you want to have show up in 2023? And so that's always key, is developing that vision and then really figuring out, the mindset to go with that. You can't have I want to be healthy, I want to be fit and healthy demeanor with I don't have time type of a mindset, if that makes sense. So your mindset has to match your vision. And so that's the second part of that. And then the third part of it, like you were saying earlier, how do I get up early in the morning? It's a very deeply rooted why. It's an internal why, not an external why. A lot of people come to me, I want to have more energy to work with my grandkids. I'm like, that's very noble. But what are you going to do in 10 years when your grandkids are all grown up? Are you still going to have that why? So you've got to find that internal why. So having that vision, the mindset to match the vision, and knowing your why. I always like to stress those before you jump into anything that looks like diet and exercise. And most people skip those first three steps, the vision, the mindset, and the why, and jump right to the diet and exercise. And that's what I did for the first several years of my journey. And I kept falling off the bandwagon, trying to get back on. People ask, well, how do you stay motivated? It's because I have a vision, my mindset, and I know my why. And when you have those three, the motivation it's automatically there. So you don't have to get up at 4 a.m. You want to get up at 4 a.m. You get to get up at 4 a.m, and you get to go run in the dark and the rain and all of that. And it's such a pleasure and blessing for me to be able to do that now. This morning was a little different with mud. I can handle rain, but not mud. But anyway, I just want to stress that for listeners. The health and wellness journey is really a journey of self-discovery, who you are. And what I've learned, it's such a beautiful journey. And people stress about it and try to make it hard and focus on diet. And it's none of that. It has absolutely nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with that vision. And who do you want to be in 2023? And I'm just saying 2023 because we're coming up on the new year. But who do you want to be a year from now? Who do you want to be 5 years from now? Dream of becoming that person and step into being that person. That's the vision. And then start working on the mindset to match that. Oh, I'm a lean, mean health and wellness machine in 2023. Use those power statements, something like that. And, develop that why. That's part of my journey, my story I won't get into today. But when I didn't discover my why for about 2 or 3 years. And so that's why I kept, starting something and then stopping, starting and stopping. I thought it was about losing weight and getting in shape. And that only works for, a couple of weeks or a couple of months at the most. And then you start the cycle over again. That's why they call it the yo-yo cycle, the on again, off again cycle. Mm-hmm. But once I really tuned in with that inner why, why am I doing this? If I take care of my mind, body, and spirit, my mind, body, and spirit will take care of me. That became my internal why. I've never looked back ever since. And I've long gotten off that yo-yo cycle, and health and wellness just comes automatically to me now. I call it the autopilot stage or the effortless effort stage. So so the whole point of that, I'll be quiet because I know I like to talk and ramble.
That's fine. That's fine.
It's supposed to be a fun journey. It's supposed to be fun, full of life and love and happiness and all that. And so many people stress about it because they're going about it the wrong way. They're focusing on the wrong things. They're focusing on diet, on exercise, on getting in shape, and that's not what it's about. It's about focusing on becoming that next best version of you, and what does that look like? Something that's realistic for you and your life and all that. And then just allow pieces of the puzzle to fall into place, And I don't kill myself at the gym at all anymore. Everything I do is based on my slow, easy methodology and philosophy, keeping my heart rate low when I go out for what other people will call running, what I call kind of like, blogging or something like that. Mm-hmm. Incorporating natural movements, like you mentioned at the top of the show about movement, moving my shoulder joints, doing some high knees, some step over, some open and close the gate type movements. This is all on my health coaching program too, for anyone that might be interested. But anyway, yeah, it's supposed to be a fun, beautiful, lovely journey. It's not supposed to be stress at all.
Right. I think where people really go wrong, and we're talking about, having these fits and starts to your fitness journey where you're onto something and then you fall off, you're onto something and then you fall off, and it's a repeat sort of phenomenon. I think, everyone talks about having the why here, but I think what people get wrong is that their why is short-sighted. So we give people this idea that their why is some sort of mission statement, some sort of temporary mission statement, like, because they try to regular people, they try to match, their why with like the why of a professional athlete, for example, like somebody who has like a new season coming up in their given sport, or a tournament or a competition of some kind. So they're getting ready for their couple hours competition or tournament or series of tournaments or whatever. So it is a why that is meant to end at a certain designated time versus a why that is like more long-term, saying like, this is how I'm going to live from this point on. I think that's probably where people are getting tripped up. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, most people have what I call an external why, and you just mentioned about professional athletes. Professional athletes and military personnel are perfect examples of this. They spend the better part of 5, 10, 15 years, being in shape because it's required of them. It's required of their job and their duty. But what happens, you see this a lot with professional athletes, as soon as their playing days are over, which, is early 30s for most people, late 20s, early 30s. There's the rare exception, the Tom Brady's of the world. There are a few of those out there. But once they retire, they don't know what to do, and they let themselves go. They gain 50 to 100 pounds. I was just recently with a retired military personnel Vietnam vet, and bless his heart, he was extremely obese, overweight, and now had diabetes and lost a lower leg due to diabetes. And it's all because they were doing it for an external why, an internal why. And that's why I said this is not about being in shape. It's not about, diet or exercise. It's about discovering who you are. And so you have to go internal. This is something that's very contrary to our culture, to what we're used to hearing. We're used to hearing about, let's get in shape to run 100 miles. Well, that's definitely good. And if you've got that internal why, more power to you. But like I said, most people don't have that. So you've got to turn internal. Ask yourself, there's a common exercise, the 7 levels of why exercise. Why am I doing this? Well, because I want to lose weight. Well, why is losing weight important to me? Well, because then I'll have more energy to play with my grandkids. Well, why is having energy to play with my grandkids important? Well, because then I'll be around longer. Well, why is it important that I be around longer? Because then I'll get to experience more of life, what I want to experience. Well, why is experiencing more of life what I want to experience? Because then I'll be the person that I want to be. You see that? You see how you go there? And I got to that final, because I'll be the person I want to be. It has nothing to do with, energy or playing with the grandchildren, which they thought it did on the surface. It has to do with being that person that you want to be on the inside. Your spirit on the inside is craving to be something, and so be that. And so that's when my whole entire journey changed. When I stopped focusing on trying to get in shape and exercise, and just started focusing on being healthy. My spirit just wanted to be this healthy person. And that's what I tell everybody as part of your vision, choose that person you want to be. Who do you want to be in 2023? What does that look like? A lean, mean health and wellness machine or something. And then everything else just kind of came naturally. The healthy eating started to fall in place. The regular exercise, I'll use that word. I use the word movement now, or wellness, started to fall in place and all that. So it's you have to turn inward and do the internal work, and that's contrary to what most people understand and think. But if you want any journey, any business adventure, anything to be sustainable, you have to be doing it for the right reason. And most people, unfortunately, are not doing it for the right reason, and that's why they fall off and have a hard time getting back on. And then they don't know that they need to look for the right reason.
Right, exactly right. So I kind of want to go back a little bit further. So we began the broadcast with talking about the events in the last 12 years that got you to where you are now. So I kind of want to look back just a bit further. So before this, you said you were in your bedroom in your house. You had this big belly, 50 pounds overweight, very unhealthy guy, and what was your life before that? I mean, were you just someone who struggled with weight your entire life, or was it just something that gradually crept up on you over time in your adult years?
Yeah, I was so you mentioned your age 39. This journey for me started I was 38 and I just turned 50, so 13 years. But no, I was fairly active, athletic my whole life. Through my 20s, I was an active soccer player, skier, and when I lived overseas, I stayed active, a lot of hiking and everything. But when I came back and I was married at 30, I did what most people do. I was married and my energy became the family, the house. I spent tons of time and energy fixing up my house. And then the career, the career job took off. And so it was work, home, and sleep and a little bit of family activity here and there. And my health and activity, I quit playing soccer. I quit riding my bike. I quit walking or hiking or even, I was a little bit of a runner before in college and post-college a little bit. I just stopped all of that because I didn't really understand that my health was a priority. Until that fateful day, I was sitting on my couch and I saw that how I had let myself go is the expression in terms of getting overweight and all that. And then it did a 180 from there and I've never looked back ever since. I call myself the couch to healthy coach because I was the guy that was sitting on the couch and then did my first 5K. And I did my first 5K and then like the Energizer Bunny, I just kept going and going and going until I became this model of health and wellness, I guess. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it started.
So I saw something on your website that said something like, it really kind of caught my eye because you made mention that I think you were sitting in your house, again, overweight, 38, 39 years old. And, I think you were starting to go through your divorce or your divorce was in process or something like that, just the beginning or maybe in the middle of your divorce. And you made mention that your dog just looked at you in this pitiful way and then just walked away from you, just looked at you sitting there looking miserable, looking overweight, looking depressed, just looked at you in this pitiful way and just turned around, went back to its dog bed and just said, nope.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's crazy. I thought you were going to mention that story. Yeah. That
was really, that really did catch my attention. And I think, it sounds like it was really formative of the person that you ended up becoming. So, I mean, it's impossible to really know, but what did you think that dog was thinking of you at that time?
That was I call it my second miracle because when he would not, I was like, come on, boy, come over here. I mean, this is my dog, my best friend in the whole world. We did all kinds of stuff together. But he just looked at me like, you're a total loser. I'm not coming over there. He went back to his dog bed in front of the fireplace. And yeah, I was in the middle of my divorce at the time. And it was that moment, my life changed forever because it was in that moment I realized some of what I've been saying, that what we focus on, we become. And so anybody listening, that's really important. What you focus on in your life, you become. And up to that point in my life, I had been focusing on everything that I did not want to happen. I did not want to be unhealthy. Well, what was I? Unhealthy. I did not want to be a couch potato. Well, what was I? A couch potato. I did not want to be an uptight, irritable, grumpy husband and father. Well, what was I? I was a very uptight, grumpy, irritable husband and father. And I asked myself in that moment, well, what type of person do I want to be? Well, I want to be someone that's more cheerful, someone that's full of, has more peace in their life. And it's been a journey ever since to become that person I want to become. And so I say this too, and not that I'm an expert in relationships, especially the romantic kind, but one of the keys is as you as an individual have to show up as that person you want to be for the other person. So if you want to be the best husband, the best spouse, the best boyfriend, whatever, the best son, then show up as that. And that's what I learned on that day when my dog, bless his heart, he passed a couple of years ago, and I have a beautiful another trail running dog that is, the torch has been passed. But yeah, that was a very pivotal moment in my life. Yeah. That was 2000 February of 2012 or 13. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, smack dab in the middle of the divorce then. Yeah.
Right. Just kind of the lowest point of low, huh? You feel like you just got rejected by a dog.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Crazy. Your best friend. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, that really kind of, I wouldn't say it resonated with me because I don't have a dog and I don't really know what that feeling is like, but I can imagine, when you're already feeling down and you can't even get who you said was your best friend in the world to even have anything to do with you. Yeah, I think for a lot of people, that would be the final blow.
It's funny, everything that happens in life is happening for you, to build you, to mold you, to shape you. Had that event, like had he actually come over to me and jumped on my lap like he normally would have, I may not be sitting here today. I may not have had that epiphany. Who knows what my life would be like today had he not rejected me. So the fact that he did reject me, was obviously a blessing in disguise. It's hard to see that in the moment, but looking back, years later, it was truly one of the best things that ever happened to me that he did reject me on that day.
So in your reading of you that I did, you also said that there is a secret sauce, knowing a secret sauce, quote unquote, secret sauce to having life work for you and not against you. So did I read that right?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
A secret sauce to having life work for you and not against you. I'd like you to kind of go into that a little bit. So what do you mean by that?
It's very simple. Choose who you want to be. Life is about being, not doing. And we've got that backwards. We all have our to-do list and think if I do my passion, then I will be happy. But it's actually the opposite. If I focus on being this type of person, my passion will automatically show up. It's called the be, do, have. I call it the be, do, have formula. You focus on that person that you want to be. So in my case, I wanted to be this healthy person. That became my focus from that point on after my dog rejected me. I wanted to be healthy, and things just kind of started to fall into place like that. Articles started to show up about nutrition, more race events, more online training programs. I took a program with Mark Devine, Unbeatable Mind. Things just... Have you heard of that?
Oh, yes, I definitely have. And I have back and forth in the last couple of years or so, I've flirted with the idea of doing that Kokoro thing that he does. And
Kokoro experience. Yeah.
You've done it?
I have not done his Kokoro, but I have. Kokoro is, I lived in Japan and I speak Japanese. Kokoro means literally from the heart. Like when you do something, do it from the heart, from the spirit. Give it your whole heart, give it your whole spirit. And no, I've had a couple events in my life where that has happened, and that's how I discovered my why one day. Take care of my mind, body, spirit. It'll take care of me. I would definitely recommend, if you never had an experience like that, definitely do it. He's got several of them. He's got Kokoro. He's got 20X. I've lost touch with him over the last couple of years, but I know he's got a ton of stuff. But my point is, whoever's listening to this right now, even you, Sean, if you haven't done this, my series about getting ready for 2023 that's on my Instagram page right now and my Facebook, step one is develop that vision. Who do you want to be in 2023? So I, Brad Carlson, am I'm working on, I am a confident leader of humanity. That's the person I'm working on becoming and stepping into. Knowing that it's kind of a catch-22, knowing I already am that person. It's a matter of understanding that I already am that person. So if you draw out your life in 2023, who do you want to be? That is the answer to that question is the secret sauce right there. You look in the mirror, you look at that person, you say, who are you? Who am I? And when you answer that person based on who you want to be, okay, if you're a 50-pound overweight couch potato like I was, that's who I didn't want to be. But that was in my mind. Well, who do I want to be? I want to be a husband and a father and a person that is healthy and loving and kind and joyful. And so that's peaceful, and that's what I've been working on ever since. And I've come a long, long way. I wouldn't even recognize myself even like 3 years ago, much less 13 years ago. Like, who is that person, that Brad Carlson? I wouldn't even know. But, yeah, and then follow as term like for you, Sean, in terms of Kokoro, follow your heart, follow your instinct, follow your intuition. If it's telling you to do it, you've got that nudge, then heck yeah, sign up for it. And what you get from it may be something totally different than what you think you'll get from it. That's just kind of how life works. So I just always follow that nudge, follow that intuition. And that's what led me into podcasting. And that's kind of what brought us here together today too. So I couldn't be more happy and blessed with my life.
So And you've already kind of touched on this already. What would you say is your kind of overarching philosophy towards fitness? Because it sounds like you had an idea. It's probably changed quite a bit over the years. When you've been into something for 13 years, things are it's never static. It's going to change. I know it has for me quite a bit. So when you are talking to, say, your clients about, living a healthy life, understanding what fitness is and what it's not, making the differentiations between, myth and fact, and just being able to live that life. How do you guide them through that? Because that is a maze of different things. And like you said, like our conception of fitness for a lot of people, and for us too, to some degree, is always fueled by mass media and popular culture and social media and things like that. Whereas we get this, we see these people on their Instagram, we see them, especially, the algorithm is so brilliant, because if you follow one celebrity, then suddenly it's going to have you it's going to be suggesting 20 more celebrities, just like doing all the same thing. You go on Facebook, you'll see ads for the same thing you clicked on Instagram. And it's just like, it just bombards you. And so you get the idea that you get the idea in your head that, and I actually had a conversation like this just recently with another guest. It's like in terms of we were talking about yoga, and she was talking about how yoga is not all these super triple bendy people all over Instagram, who are basically doing acrobatics and calling it yoga, or contortion acts. And, it gets to be too much. It becomes like a smog. And you get the idea that everyone out there, this is what fitness is this incredible people doing these incredible acts of physicality.
Yeah, that's a great point for me to jump in. We have, with yoga, we have warped what yoga is. Yoga is an internal art. Yogananda, the founder of yoga, was a very much like Buddha, very much at peace, enlightened, all that. It was all about internal, and that's why yoga was created, to go internal and check with your feelings and emotions and connecting with your spirit. And we made it in the West about fitness, about health, or exercise, and about bending, twisting. I can't do 2/3 of that stuff. But to kind of answer your question, my take on fitness, how I approach it, it's changed a lot over the years. I used to be the hardcore competitive, trying to be a triathlete, better swimmer, all this. It's all about the time. It's all about the PR. And that works for a while, and that's good. And some people are still in that. I still have a couple of friends that, even at our age, they're still all about the PR, and they train for that. And that works for them, so more power to them. I'm all about the slow, easy, long-term, sustainable, natural movement. So the nutshell bottom line, what I tell people about fitness, it's not about diet. It's not about exercise. It's not about getting in shape. It's not about losing weight. It's not about any of that. If you want this journey to last a lifetime, which I think most people do, because I don't know any person that if I say, hey, when you're 80 years old, do you want to be in a wheelchair? Hey, when you're 80, do you want to be on a walker? There are events that are maybe beyond our circumstances, a car accident, something like that. Even with good health, we could still have a stroke sometimes, or neuropathy. But as much as we can control, our health, I don't know anybody that would say, when I'm 80 years old, I want to be in a wheelchair. So what I tell people, it's a journey of self-discovery. It's about discovering who you are and that person that you want to be. And everything else falls into place and becomes the byproduct. So the health, the exercise, the fitness, the diet, all that becomes the byproduct of that person you want to be. If being a bodybuilder is who you want to be, that's who you are, and that resonates with you on the inside, then you're gonna see that in the external world. But if your internal world is saying, I want to go to left field, and your external world is showing a bright field, you need to take a look at that, because you're not on the same page with yourself. And that's what makes the journey sustainable, is when you get your heart and your mind lined up on the same page. Your mind thinks one thing, I have to do this exercise or whatnot. But your soul just my soul just wanted to be healthy. Your soul just wants to be peace or something like that. And so you focus on that, realizing that all this stuff will then start to show up that helps you be that person. And it's kind of it's not like the typical answer I'm giving. Most people say like, well, do 20 minutes of this and 10 reps of this and, keto this and paleogenic that or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, there's definitely, that's part to it. But again, for a lot of people, it doesn't work. It doesn't last. They still struggle. Like, military people, I don't know any population that has more discipline than someone who's been in the military. Yet when they get out, they let themselves go. They gain 50 or 100 pounds. I know many military personnel that have gained weight because they have this whole paradigm backwards. So many people in the everyday world have the paradigm backwards. They think it's about exercise, diet, losing weight, getting in shape, getting the six-pack, bending, twisting, in yoga that they do all that. I've talked with guests on my podcast that said, Brad, I did the meditation, I did the yoga, everything. It didn't work until I truly went internal. Every answer you want to every question in your life, every problem you have is an internal answer. And it's being that person you want to be. And I don't know how else to say that in a way that doesn't sound weird or crazy or like far out there. And I hope it doesn't. But that's what changed for me. That's what changed for you when you realize this is a journey of self-discovery. Answer that question, who are you? And your answer to that question will determine your future, what you look like, what you're doing, where you live, all of that stuff. So I'm an adventurer. Like, who am I? Part of who I am is an adventurer, an explorer. And so I live the tiny minimalist lifestyle in my RV trailer, and that works really, really well for me. That wouldn't work for the vast majority of people. If I ask somebody else, who are you? Well, I'm a home person. I want the house and the family. Okay, that's what works for them. So make fitness and exercise and all that the byproduct of that one question. Who am I? Who do I want to be?
Yeah, I think if more people probably devoted the time to actually answer that question more thoroughly and had a clearer answer for it, I think like when they go and they try to do things like the exercises or they hire personal trainers or they start running, they start lifting, I think that they would probably find it a much more easier transition when they're starting out because they got the hard part out the way. They figured out what they were, what they weren't. But most of them, like you said, are just chasing false idols. Yes. And are getting disillusioned when they reach out for something and it just kind of disintegrates in their hand.
Yeah, it's a little different because, this journey didn't happen overnight for me either. Most people want instant feedback or instant success. They follow their, people tell me all the time, oh, I got 20,000 steps in today. And I'm like, yeah, but were they quality steps? I mean, were you bending, doing natural movement, bending, twisting? Were you getting your heart rate up, to the slow, easy cadence that I use? And most of the time the answer to that is no. So yeah, quality versus quantity. I'll take 1,000 of my natural movement steps over 20,000 regular steps of any person any day. So
yeah, same here. I mean, I don't count steps. I kind of got on that for a bit, but then I was like, number one, I don't think this is much fun, and I don't think it's
doesn't last.
Right. It doesn't last, and I don't think it's physiologically relevant either. I think I kind of really question just how relevant that is to your overall fitness.
Yeah, the one thing I like about the Couch to Healthy lifestyle, there's no counting anything, no counting steps, no counting calories, no counting macros, no weighing anything. There's no supplements of any kind. There's no specialized restrictions on anything. I follow I call it intermittent eating, which is similar to intermittent fasting, but a little bit different. There are two key differences. And I eat, one healthy meal a day, sometimes two, but that's all I need. When your metabolism uses fat for fuel versus sugars and carbohydrates, you one meal or 2 meals a day is fine. And that's a major component to keeping weight off is the intermittent eating with my slow, easy cardio program that I teach. So, there's a lot of work still in the world to do, Sean. I'm so happy that you're having this podcast to, get this message out to as many people as possible.
I'm doing what I can. So, just because I'm curious, like, what's the difference between intermittent fasting and intermittent eating?
Okay, one is psychology. So when you
Okay.
think about the word fasting, like that word just gives me like shrills. Like it's like, who wants to fast? Like, oh God, I got to fast tomorrow for 16 hours. It doesn't get me excited. It doesn't get me motivated.
You're right there. Yeah.
What do I enjoy? I enjoy eating. Oh, intermittent eating. So I'm always focusing on the positive, what I get to do, what I enjoy, and that keeps me motivated. So, I get to eat. That's a big part of it. The second part is really key, and this is because intermittent eating is based on how our tribal ancestors, our hunter-gatherers, ate. They didn't, eat in an 8-hour window and then fast for 16 hours. They would never say that. That's absolutely insane. They had no knowledge of any of this. They ate when they had food, and they ate, and then when they didn't eat, they didn't have food. They didn't eat. So intermittent fasting is based on a fixed schedule. You may, that 16-8 window is a common one, eat within that 8-hour window and then nothing for 16 hours. Intermittent eating is based on a random schedule. So for me, my first meal may be at 8:30 in the morning. Yesterday it was at 3:30 in the afternoon. I only had one meal yesterday at 3:30. Today I ate at 8:30, and then I may eat later today at 4 or 5. It's kind of based on not the time on a clock. It's a very random schedule, but kind of when you just naturally feel hungry and feel like, okay, I should eat now. Not because it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. In intermittent eating, there is no breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's just meal 1, meal 2, very once in a while, meal 3, and then very once in a while, a snack here and there of some grain-free crackers with uncured ham. That's a common one I eat. Or I eat some pieces of dark chocolate a lot too. I like that. So, but the two differences are psychology and schedule. Yeah, intermittent eating is a random schedule. Intermittent fasting is a fixed schedule. To me, that's not how the metabolism works. The metabolism doesn't say, well, it's 16 here and 8 there. Our ancestors never did that. The other key piece to intermittent eating, which I really recommend for people, is our hunter-gatherers, before they ate, they were always traversing the land. Like they would have to go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 miles or whatever, make the kill. They would cut it up and eat part of it right there on the spot and then bring the rest back to the village. So I always say in the beginning, when you're learning this, before you eat your meal, go for at least a 1-mile walk, 10-minute walk or something like that to kind of get your metabolism revved up a little bit. That is so key to this process, this system, is getting that metabolism to be a lean, mean, fat-burning machine.
Gotcha. So I wanted to ask you because, one, you're 50 years old, so you're part of that older, quote unquote, older population now.
I know.
And I'm not too far from it myself. As weird as that sounds for me to say, but and I work with people who are older. So people who are 50, 40 and beyond. And what do you think fitness means for someone who is 40 years old and beyond? Because we know what it means. I think it means something differently psychologically, I think, for the most of us. But I think it's probably different in many multifaceted ways.
That question, I can only answer that from my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it means one, slow, easy. All exercise I do should be slow and easy. I do one hit, the high intensity interval training. I still do that twice a month, maybe 3 times a month at the most for about 10 minutes, just to kind of, like, I like to call it like, what's it called when you're having a heart attack and you put those electronic pads on the person to jumpstart their heart or something?
Right.
So I like to keep my immune system, my cardio system, my organs, jumpstart them, a couple times a month. So I still do that. Exercise, it's all about wellness for me now and movement. I don't even use the word exercise at all anymore. I really don't even know what that means. It's always about doing something wellness to take care of my mind, body, and spirit. A walk in nature, reading a book, 10 minutes of, sitting in my chair on a nice fall day, drinking hot tea, journaling. But there's always a movement component to that. And since I understand about movement and natural movement, I do a lot of that. So, there's tons of videos you can see on my Instagram of me doing that. But it's about slow, easy, sustainable, and it's about fun. I do a lot of paddleboarding, not this time of year, but normally during the good weather months, a lot of paddleboarding. It's not about the big muscles. It's not about being in shape. My muscles are still toned and everything at 50. I still have a little bit of a six pack. I'm actually kind of happy with that because I really don't pay much attention to it. It's like, dang, that's pretty good. I still got a little bit of one, and it's still pretty rock hard there. But I don't do anything on that. I do some core exercise all the time. I do a lot more isometric exercises now, which is basically what yoga is. You get in a position and you hold it, and that's stressing your whole body. So I do all whole body functional type movements now. I don't do very little like bodybuilding type isolation type movements, like just for the biceps or just for the shoulders or something. Everything I do is bending, twisting, jumping, because that's what you're doing in the real world. Stepping over, ducking under, pushing, pulling, all of that stuff. But I do it in a slow, easy, sustainable manner. And then throw in some isometrics, yoga, and then throw in a couple sessions of high intensity, which for me could be just all out sprinting or some basic, CrossFit type exercise. I did CrossFit for a few years, so I have a background in that, and I can do some of that on my own. So with my clients though, I just train them down the So Easy methodology. And there's a 5-part program to that, I guess, too. But yeah, it's about. So I like to talk. Sorry, Sean.
That's fine. That's what you're here for.
But it's about slow, easy, sustainable, fun, natural type movements. And that word natural, any movement is. I raise my arm. That's a natural movement. I twist. That's a natural movement. So I just call it any movement that you would do in the real world.
Right. So I think it's kind of funny too, because when we get older in life, we go back to now. We like to emphasize what you were saying, like the natural movements, just being able to move in a way that's very easy and very kind of intuitive to us. Yeah. But you think when we were kids, that's what we did. We didn't emphasize any kind of real mechanical workouts. We didn't think about it as exercise. We just did stuff, right? Somewhere in between like adolescence and young adulthood, that message got overlooked. It got passed over, and now suddenly it's all about just like isolating the areas, building the muscle, getting big, that kind of thing. At least it is for a lot of people. I shouldn't overgeneralize, but it is for a good number of people that we went from just kind of being natural humans to being now these just big muscly beasts that are walking around gyms, and it becomes all about aesthetics. Which I don't have any problem with aesthetics. I think everybody wants to look good. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I know I want to look good, so I don't penalize anybody for wanting to have like the athletic look. But when it gets to the point where it's so ridiculous, where you're turning to things like steroids and stuff just to get a certain look, and I say this now in light of the recent so-called scandalous revelation of the Liver King. He's on steroids. I say that quote in air quotes because it's like, well, just look at him. Did you really think he wasn't on steroids?
It's a simple question. Why do you want big muscles? Mm-hmm. And beyond aesthetics, ego, they really can't give you a good answer. And so that's what it goes back to. Why are you doing this? That external why versus the internal intrinsic why. I've talked to some of these. I've been a guest on podcasts with some of these bodybuilding type coaches, and I just want the big muscles. I'm like, okay, why? And now all of a sudden, like, they can't really answer me. They never stop to think about that.
Because they want to look good. That is their why or their answer to what looks good and what looks satisfying when they see themselves in the mirror.
Yeah, and so is that rooted in fear, or is that rooted in ego, or is it rooted in love? Because what about you do you think doesn't look good now? Are you falling under what society says you have to have big muscles to look good? Like I said, I got off that bandwagon a long time ago. Mm-hmm. I'm very fit, healthy. I still have a little bit of tone and definition, but I do obviously look at me. I don't have big muscles at all. And I realized that, that was just not for me. I had the Bruce Lee look once for a while. That was tough. I got down. I was 185 at my peak. At my lowest, I was 133 when I call it the Bruce Lee look. And I had that for about 3 days. That's about as long as I could sustain it. That's tough.
Well, Bruce Lee was kind of a freak.
Yeah, but I was ripped, chiseled. My muscles weren't quite that big, but I was definitely ripped and chiseled. But I walk around now about 140, 141, 142. I mean, I don't worry about that anymore. But again, I just ask those people, if you're doing those big muscles based out of love, then more power to you. But if you're doing it out of fear, because you think you don't look good, you won't look good unless you have those big muscles, then we need to reevaluate something.
Yeah, for sure. So, kind of just going back a little bit further,
Sure.
going back to the wellness question and the kind of energy that you wanna build for yourself and sustain for yourself. I'm going again on what I read in your bio and in your website. I'm going to keep referencing back to that because
Sure. Thanks for reading those. I appreciate that.
No problem. It was a treasure trove of information about you, but I might have misread this, or I might have not actually seen it, but I think I saw something like even after you got fit, you got the weight down, you got the athletic look, and you were a triathlon athlete and all that you still felt like you had what you called forced energy. That you had energy, but it was forced energy. What did you mean by forced energy?
I was fit, but I was not healthy. So
Okay.
I'm having to force myself to run, to bike, to swim, to lift weights, to go to the gym. Because I wasn't fully connected with my higher meaning and purpose why I was doing that. And I wasn't fully connected with what this all meant to me. What is this all about? What do I really want out of this? And yeah, I was very fit, but not healthy at all. Today, I'm very, very healthy, but I'm not as fit. Like I was in marathon shape for many, many years, and I'm barely in 5K shape right now. So in terms of fitness, yeah, that's decreased, but my health has increased. My self-love, my self-care, my perception of life. So what I mean by forced is that you're forcing yourself out of bed. Like, oh, I got to do this. I got to put on the shoes. And it's not a want. It's not a desire. So your motivation is coming from a place of fear. That, if I don't do this triathlon, people are going to think lesser of me. If I don't do this hard run, I'm not going to be able to brag about it later in the day with my other friends. Because for a couple of years there in my journey, that's what fed my ego. Was that, oh, what race did you do this weekend, Brad? And what was your time? And, oh, that's so awesome you're doing this, Brad. And that just, it got to my head. It got to my ego. And so that made me want to keep going, but I was doing it all for the wrong reason. I was doing it to satisfy other people. And I finally just looked back and said, what does this really mean to me? What is this all about? And I just said, you know what? I just want to be fit, happy, and healthy. And can I be fit, happy, and healthy running a 5-minute mile? For me, not really. Can I be fit, happy, and healthy running a 20-minute mile? Yeah, and that's when I started to develop the slow, easy. And I realized, oh, God, my body doesn't hurt now. Oh, I can wake up the next morning. I don't have 3 days of soreness or lactic acid built up anymore. And I'm like, there's something to this. And then I just kind of started getting more into the literature that, oh, yeah, there's something to this slow, easy. Take it easy on your body. Your body is built for long-term sustainability. It's not built for CrossFit, like high intensity, day after day after day after day. And it's not built to do repetition after repetition in the exact same spot. Like I'll do like from point A to point B, I'll go 3 miles and I'll do, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 100 push-ups against a tree or something. Like I need to push myself off a tree to get over the next tree or around the next rock or something. So that's a natural movement, which is, simulated by a push-up on the ground. So that's much more natural than getting down and doing 100 straight push-ups or something. So yeah, the more I was forcing myself, the more my cortisol was, now that I understand this, was getting more and more, and the more stressed out I was getting. So exercising was having the opposite effect. It was making me more stressed out. The more I trained, the more stressed out I got. But I had to keep forcing myself to get up and train because of my ego. I was doing it from a place of fear. That's why I said I would ask those guys about, they want the big muscles. Is that based in fear? And a lot of times I would venture to say the answer to that would be yes. So I had to take a step back and say, what do I really want out of this journey? okay, I understand why I'm doing this, but what is it I really want out from this journey? What do I want to take away from this? And I just wanted a base, I call it a base level of fitness. And I just wanted to be healthy, which I understand healthy now means a lot more than exercise and diet. It means there's a spiritual side, an emotional side, an intellectual side. So it's incorporating all of that. And I just want to be happy. And I'm very happy when I can go for a slow, easy run for an hour and wake up and still be able to move the next day versus going out and training for 5 miles at, for me, an 8-minute mile pace or rate pace and then not being able to move for 3 days. That was horrible. Oh, so especially as you get 40 and older. So you're going to start, the male body will start going through more changes, especially when it hits 40. You know, I'm 50 now, getting ready, kind of in the early stages of, for men, what we go through is called andropause, where our testosterone really drops off. You know, Mother Nature is starting to take over, and, you know, we fight it as much as we can. I still do the weightlifting and all that. I tried a supplement, I'll admit, not too long ago, to help, you know, maintain or elevate testosterone, one of these natural herb supplements, but it turned my urine a dark, rusty brown. So I thought, oh, this is probably not good. So I quit taking it.
Well, at least you heeded that little warning shot. So
strange. I only took it a couple of times, and it looked like rough colored brick. I'm like, okay, well, obviously it's not getting absorbed into my system. My system is telling me something, so I quit taking it. It was expensive too, like $50 for a little bottle, and I only took it for like 2 days. I still got most of the bottle left in my cabinet there.
$50 for rusty brown urine.
Yeah.
Geez, thanks so much. So I wanted to ask you something here, since we're talking about, you know, again, fitness and especially how it relates to popular culture. What do you think of like people like, say, David Goggins? And
Now,
I want to throw this out there right now. I'm not trying to shake up a hornet's nest here. I'm not trying to beat the guy down. I don't believe in doing that. But, you know, and I followed him for a little bit. I even read his book, Can't Hurt Me. Great book. You know, I like biographies. And his story is inspiring. But I wanted your take on him.
You know, he's being who he is. I definitely admire and respect him, and that works for him. That doesn't work for me. And that's one reason I quit following Divine and the Unbeatable Mind community, because it was all about mentally tough. And mentally tough for them was about, you know, how many push-ups can you do in an hour? How long can you hold a certain yoga position? Like they do that position, they squat down, they hold that 20-pound pipe over their head. I don't know if you've seen that on some of the videos.
Well, it sounds like an overhead squat. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, overhead squat. Yeah, where they're that with the 20-pound, and then they'll come along with the water hoses and spray them down and all that. I'm like, that's definitely good stuff, and that could definitely be part of your journey. And admittedly, I kind of went through my own version of that with triathlon training and Spartan mud training and all that. But like I said, I was doing it for the wrong reason. And so I would, you know, I don't know David's reason, you know, what is his motivation for this extreme lifestyle that he lives to push himself to the limits there? That may very well be who he is. I don't know. And in that case, you know, yeah, it is very inspiring to test the limits of human endurance. Certainly we need people like that. I'm testing the limits of human sustainability. You know, how long can I live?
It's a good way to look at it.
To be fit, happy, and healthy without all the stuff. And so on one hand, yeah, I truly admire and respect him, but to push the limits of the human psyche and body like he does, we definitely need people like that. And so that's his purpose in this planet. That's his role to fulfill in life. And so, you know, more power to him. And anyone that follows him, that's great. Again, I would just ask that question. Are you doing that out of love for developing to become who you are? Or are you doing that out of fear based in ego like I was doing for many years? Mm-hmm. And that's when it led to actually the exercise was backfiring, you know, more stress and more cortisol because I was doing it for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
So again, it's that question, what do you want out of this? If I were to ask him that question, if I could get David on my podcast and ask, okay, you know, what do you want out of your journey? What do you want out of life? And if he says, I want to see how far I can push myself, then yeah, absolutely. He's there and, you know, more power to him. That works for him. I'm not interested in that. that. I've been through a little of that, and I can only say I'm not interested in that because I did go through some of that. I pushed myself really, really hard with some of those Spartan programs, with some of the Mark Divine programs. I did do his 8 weeks to SEAL Fit. I did that twice. That was a pretty intense program.
I did that too, right there on my shelf, right there, 8 weeks of SEAL Fit.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, it's an intense program. And the other time was I able to do 100%,
Mm-hmm.
If his book said 1,000 flutter kicks, I would do 500 or something. I would start out the first time when I went through it, I did 200. The second time I went through the program, I would do more.
Right.
So there was a lot where I never did get to the full amount, but I realized just one day running, my goal is, what I want is just to be fit, happy, and healthy. I want to be able to walk the next day. So I realized I can do that running a 20-minute mile versus running an 8-minute mile. So I took my ego completely out of it. It no longer became about time. It just became about fun and enjoying nature. And I realized when I'm out in nature, sometimes I want to stop for half an hour and admire the view. It's not just go, go, go on the trail.
Yeah.
So,
I just kind of wonder because, and I realize that a lot of the Goggins image is branding.
yeah.
Is marketing. So I wonder just how much of that is actually 100% him. I'm sure plenty of it actually is, but I wonder if a lot of that is just kind of, his marketing machine at work, and kind of because this is what sells David Goggins is this hardcore life, is this do or die attitude. It is the, push yourself. It is the conquering the mind, conquering the spirit, making yourself steadfast and rock hard, and is all that stuff too. And that stuff sells a lot, especially to men. Yeah. Men really respond to that kind of thing. I like to push myself here too. I have a Spartan race in Montana. It's a half marathon. I've never done that length, that kind of thing. It's coming up. Yeah, thank you. It's coming up in May. Yeah, I'll be 40 years old. I'm excited. So I get is
that the Beast one?
It's longer than Beast. I think is Beast a half marathon?
The Beast I did was 17 miles.
Well,
I did when I did
it, trail run.
Yeah, the middle one, which was the blue one, that was 9-10 miles. So maybe they push it to half marathon. Cool. Good luck. Yeah.
So I get that. That stuff does appeal to me too. And the 8 weeks to SEAL Fit thing. There was a part in that book where he said, at least once a month, you should really challenge yourself with something real, just out there. And I did once. I did 1,000 push-ups.
Yeah,
in a day. Yeah, I did that. It took me 3 hours to do it.
I beat you. It took me 2 hours and 56 minutes.
Oh, it was 3 hours.
It was. I was 44, 45 when I did mine.
Man, you got to rub it in, don't you? But it was 3 hours and 19 minutes. It got me there. It was really kind of cool. It was really kind of cool too because if you get to 400 and you say, you know what, screw this, that's enough. You can feel okay about that. But when you get to 700, 800 and you say, screw this, I'm done. It's why? You're already almost there. Just keep going.
Right arm or elbow for several days after that. But the funny thing, I did mine in 2015, so I would have been 44 then, I think. But the record at the time was by a 56-year-old man, I believe, and it was sub 1 hour, 56 minutes. He did
Yeah, see, those monsters are out there. Those monsters are out there. But what I was getting at with Goggins is because you talked a lot about doing things for the sake of ego rather than for the sake of, what is actually going to benefit you and what adaptations you hope you can get from something like that. And if I read his book, and if it's believable, his background is horrendous. His father was just tyrannical, terrible to his brother, to his mother. His childhood was just, he grew up in an area where, they're the only black family around. And so, racial epitaphs were common. His background was just terrible. And so a lot of times especially when I hear him talk, I just hear a lot of fear. I hear a lot of fear. I hear a lot of repressed rage,
Maybe, yeah. Like I said, I'd have to sit down and have a conversation. What are you really about? Why are you doing this? I agree. Part of it now is it's a marketing machine. This is how the world sees him, and so he's got to keep up a certain persona perception. I don't know. I've never talked to him. Is he doing it out of love or out of fear? Yeah, I don't know.
I get the impression, and this is probably not accurate because I don't know the man, but I get the impression it's like you just don't really have much of a life. You've torched everything else about being human other than this ultra, continuous experiment into constantly pushing the boundaries of how much the human body can really take,
And I know there's some studies coming out. In fact, one of the guys, if you're familiar with the book Born to Run,
I've heard of it, yeah.
One of the characters, I want to say Barefoot Ted, but I can't remember. But, these long-term hardcore guys are having heart attacks in their late 40s, early 50s because they're pushing. The heart is a muscle too. And when you strain it beyond human capabilities over and over and over again, eventually it's going to give out. And we're seeing that more and more with some of these extreme athletes that are having heart attacks in their late 40s, early 50s because they've pushed it too hard, too much for too long. And that's also me. I didn't want that. It was so when I did 8 weeks to SEALFIT, I was sore every day for 3 months. I still remember that to this day. And let me say, another reason, and I do truly love Divine and what he's done. And I think there's a lot of ego about that because take away Navy SEAL from Mark Divine and what does he have? I don't know, but
he's got his martial arts background. That's still there.
Yeah. And his yoga, but without Navy SEAL, would he, he's used Navy SEAL to build his brand, which
he has.
That's I thought Navy SEALs couldn't do that, but that's up to him. But I love what he's done and what he's doing for men and in terms of challenging them and pushing them mentally. And I got to the point where I said, you know what? I don't need to do 1,000 push-ups to be mentally tough. I need to really look and learn who I am. That's my definition of mental toughness. And when I went there, I realized, I don't necessarily – mental toughness isn't a priority for me. I want to be emotionally and spiritually tough, which then became emotionally, spiritually stable, which then became what I say now, a source of love, health, and happiness. That's my whole mission on this planet, is to be a source of love, health, and happiness for as many people on this planet. And I told myself, and this is where it gets tricky for me, I told myself, I don't need to do 1,000 push-ups to be able to do that. But to get to where I am today, I did have to go through 8 weeks of SEALFIT and push myself really hard. I did have to go through 5 years of Spartan training and triathlon training and pushing myself really hard, CrossFit training, 2 years of pushing myself really hard to get to that realization that I don't need to do 1,000 push-ups to be the strong, tough, spiritual person, mentally, spiritually, which is what I want to be. So I kind of had to do a lot of that stuff that David Goggins did, but at a lesser level, lesser scale, to get to where I am today. Had I not gone through that, I wouldn't be the person I am today. So it's kind of a catch-22 for me.
Yeah, and maybe it'll come to that point too for Goggins, where I think he's in his late 40s now. He'll get to 50s and mid 50s and say, maybe then he'll kind of dial things down. But then again, maybe not. Maybe this is how the man is actually wired.
Maybe it is. Maybe he'll jump on board my So Easy Sustainable bandwagon.
Maybe.
Become a client of mine. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But all right, Brad. So as we going to start to bring things to a close here, I like to end every broadcast with a kind of a closing tradition where I ask them, because we end up talking about a lot of different things. We go across different topics. But I like to kind of summarize things here. I think you did this pretty early on, but I want to kind of reiterate it again. Summarize things here. Like if you could have people walk away with one message, if nothing else, what would it be?
Be the source. Be the source of that person that you are. Your purpose on this planet is to be who you are. So ask that question, who are you? And then be that source for others. So who am I? I am a source of love, health, happiness for the world. So everything is an internal journey. And when you find that, everything else is a byproduct. The diet, the exercise, the mental toughness, all of that becomes the byproduct of that one question. Who are you? And then be the source.
There you go. Doesn't get any more simpler than that. All right. Well, Brad, thanks again for coming on. Thanks for the conversation.
No, thanks for having me. This has been awesome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Sean. This has been an amazing podcast experience. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And those of you who are listening, I will put in the show notes, as always, I will put contact information to the Instagram, to the Facebook, to the website. I will provide ways in which you can reach out to Brad Carlson if you're interested in his training programs. And as far as myself, obviously, I have my own training programs online. I'll put connections to those as well. Programs that are meant to help with strength, coordination, neuromuscular functioning. I have those online. I'll provide a link, clicking into them as much as you like. And also, too, for those of you listening, if you got value out of this program, if you get value out of this podcast, please do consider giving a review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. It really helps out a lot. It really increases the amount of visibility that the show gets. So if I can ask one thing of you, I would ask that. But until next time, Coach Brad Carlson, thank you again for your time, man.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Appreciate it. Thank you, Sean.
No problem. All right, everybody. Peace out. Till next time.